Hi everybody and welcome to my Graphic 45 Seize the Day 12 by 12 layout tutorial series. This is the second page of the layout I made in the last video. So this is page 8 and now we're going to be working on pages 9 and 10. So for the back side here, I am going to be starting with my purple paper. Now this is going to be the base for page 9 and then I'll bring in another piece for the base of page 10. But for right now, I'm actually going to set this aside and I'm going to bring in this paper here, Great Catch. Now I am going to be cutting the strip across the top off of the paper here in just a minute, but I'm going to mark my paper and I'm going to be cutting a diagonal piece out of the center of my paper. So I'm going to be measuring from the bottom right corner. I'm measuring over 3 1/8 of an inch. And then I am going to measure up from that corner 3 1/8 of an inch. Then here I'm going to measure across the top of my page from the top right corner 3 1/8, and then from the top right corner down the page 3 1/8. Now I'm going to cut this on my large paper trimmer, but I've got these marks and I'm going to cut from mark to mark and from mark to mark here. So essentially I'm just cutting the center section of my paper and I'm going to save these two pieces. So this is what my page looks like. I'm going to set these two aside for now and I'm going to be using this piece. Now if you don't have a large paper trimmer, like I have an industrial size paper trimmer that I can use, so this was an easy cut for me. If you don't, all you have to do is get a long enough straight edge that you could have made a line from mark to mark and then use your scissors to cut this. I forgot to mention that before I cut my piece. Now once this is cut, I'm going to bring in my page base now and I'm going to place this here on the center of my page. Now I am going to be inking my edges. I've been using this Peacock Feathers Distress ink, so I'm going to ink all those edges and then I'm going to adhere this paper down to my purple paper. Now I've got my 3 photo mats here. These are 4 by 4 squares. I'm going to start placing the first one. So I've got an imaginary line basically from this end to this end. I'm going to place this one here. And so it's going to line up straight here. And then I'm going to think about if this was, let me see if I can bring my ruler in here. If this is the end, you'll see I've got that small border on that end too. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to place this one right here. And then this one is going to go centered between the two, just like this. So I'm going to adhere these 3 down. I know it does cover up the most of the decorative paper, but that's okay because I'm going to add some embellishments and some additional things on the page. Okay, so now that I've got my 3 photo mats on, I'm going to set this piece aside again, and I'm going to bring both of these pieces back in and my ruler and my pencil. So now I am going to go down from the top left corner and I am going to mark at 3 1/8, and then across the top I'm going to measure from that top left corner at 3 1/8. Then down here for this lower piece I'm going to measure from the bottom right corner at 3 1/8 across the bottom, and then 3 1/8 up from the bottom edge. And now just like the other pieces, I'm going to cut straight on these lines and I'm going to save all of these pieces. So this is what I'm left with. I'm going to take these 2 center pieces out and bring my base back in. I'm going to ink these, but then I am going to place these here and here in my corners. Now once my corners are on, I've got one more 4x4 photo mat, and I'm going to place it down here. I'm just going to line it up with the photo mat here, and it's a little tiny bit smaller than this area is, but I'm just going to put it right in here. Or you could cut this to be a little bit more. You can make it 4 1/8 if you wanted to. I would make it 4 1/8 this way and just 4 inches the other way so that it's still square with this if you want it to fill up this entire space. But I'm just going to leave mine and have a little tiny space between the photo mat and the paper. So I'm just going to adhere this right down to here. And then I have my journaling card here. I'm going to actually be putting here on my paper, but I'm going to be putting it this direction. And I'm going to line this up so that it is, let me center it here first. So I'm using my centering ruler on my photo mat, and then I'm going to line up my journaling card with it. And once it's centered, I will go ahead and take my pencil, if I can get it, and I'm going to mark here and here. You could also just put it on and then cut it after it is on your page, but I'm just going to cut mine down and then I'll put it on the page. So I'm going to cut these pieces off. If I can find my scissors, can't find anything today. If you don't feel like you can cut this straight, then definitely use your paper trimmer. And then I can go ahead and place this right here. I will re-ink those areas that I cut, and I'm going to put my journaling card here and my 4th photo mat here. So this is what the page looks like so far. This is going to be the base of the page. I'm going to set this aside for now, and we're going to work on the companion page. I'm going to be using this Patterns in Solids paper. I believe when it's in the paper pack, it might be in this orientation, but I want to do it this way just so that it looks like the ocean waves. But I'm going to be using the solid side. And the first thing I'm going to do is bring these 2 cut pieces in. I am going to ink my edges, and then I am going to place this here where it lines up, or you can measure 3 1/8 of an inch so you have marks to line it up. And then this one is going to be here, same thing. So I'm going to adhere these 2 pieces down to my teal base. Now that I've got my papers on, I am going to find the center of my paper here. I'm just going to very lightly mark where my 6 inches is, so it should be right here. So here is my center. Guess I could have done it this way too. So I am going to just mark this now from the corner here. I'm just going to put a very light line. I'm going to erase this when I'm done, so I can barely see it. You might not be able to see it. I've got 2 4x6 white photo mats. The edges are inked. I'm going to use that line to line up where I'm going to put my photo mats. And I'm going to place them here in the center, leaving a small space between them, and we will add an embellishment there. So we do want that to be a nice size space. And if you think about it, how we had our 4x4 photo mats on the last page, you think that there's a pretend line here, you have that border there too. So I'm going to adhere these 2 pieces down to my page, and then I'm going to erase this line. I have my 2 photo mats on. I've brought my other page in, and I've got one more photo mat. This one is another 4x4 photo mat, and I'm going to be placing it here. Now it is the same size pretty much as this paper is, and I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to be centering it here just like this. Now I brought this other paper in because I had also considered, I'm not going to do it, but I had also considered taking another 4x4 photo mat, cutting it diagonally, and adding it right here. So I would basically have half on this layout, half on this layout. I've seen some layouts this way where the people actually put a photo, but they cut it in half so it's on the book. And so there is that split where it's in the page protectors, but you have your photo on both pages. And it would give this that look of a cohesive layout, but I decided that I'm not going to do that. I am just going to leave it like this because I want to be able to see more of this paper. And since we don't have a lot on this side because we've got our 3 photos covering that bigger strip, we've just got the 2 smaller pieces. I want to maximize this, and I want this to be the 2 papers. So we've got the decorative paper and then the plain paper. So I'm just going to leave mine like this. Now you could also put another 4x4 layout photo here if you choose to do so, and then you would have multiple photo spots and maximum that you could probably get on this page. But I'm going to leave this blank as well because I do want there to be room for a title if you would want to add a title to your page. Now for my embellishments, I'm going to be cutting some from this sheet that we've cut from previously. I definitely am going to be cutting this piece here with the fish and then with the pink coral in front of it. I'm likely going to be cutting out all of this bottom section here into pieces that I can place on each side. And then I do have this here, so I might cut some of the fish image too. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some of these, and then I'll come back and start adding them on. I'll show you the exact pieces that I'm going to be using. Okay, so I'm going to go through one page now at a time to make this a little bit easier since it was hard to have both of them on my desk and fit it all into frame. Now I've got just this cluster down here at the bottom, and I'm going to leave the rest plain. Now you could add additional, but this is all I'm adding. This is just from that coral reef paper, and I didn't add any of the fish pieces. So I'm going to just take these pieces out and show you what I have here. I'm starting with this one here. And I'm just going to be placing it here so that this piece is centered, and I'm going to leave these pieces open. I didn't ink my edges yet either, so I'm not going to put them down. Now, if you don't like the look of this, you can always cut this flat so that it sits on the edge of the page. I've taken this piece here, and this piece was really challenging to cut since they are so tiny, but I took the time to do it. And I'm going to be placing this here behind this one so that those little pieces are just going to be on top of this frame here, or this photo here. Then I've just cut this piece by itself, and I'm going to just tuck it over here. And then I've got this little purple piece. It was off to the side behind. I think there was something else here. It might have actually been from here. It was actually from here, and I'm going to be tucking it over here on the side, just so that when this is on here, it just all kind of spreads right across this purple area, just like this. So the only parts of this design that are going to be adhered down are the pieces that are on this purple paper, and so anything like this will be sticking up, which means you'll have to be very careful when you place this into your page protector to make sure it doesn't catch on anything, but it should be fine because once the bottom's in, this will just smooth down. So I'm going to ink my edges, and then I'm going to put this on, then I'll come back and I'll show you the next page. So these ones are all on, and I'm going to just set this aside to dry. And bringing in this one, I've only got a couple of the fish pieces. I've got only one came from the actual fish paper. These 2 small clownfish actually came from the coral reef paper. So I've got this part here that I am going to put just over here at the edge, and I'm going to put this at the edge of the paper on the bottom and the left corner, so there's some sticking over the photo, but it's not covered too much. I'm gonna come up here for a second. This was actually at the edge of the page on that coral reef paper, so I left it straight here, and I've cut around the starfish in this, and I'm just going to set this here. Hopefully this is in frame. I'm going to set this here so that it is straight down the edge of the page, and then the starfish will be here, and then the little clownfish will be here. Now this I have built up of a couple of layers. So this piece here first I have taken and I've just cut this so that there's lots of little wispy pieces, and I'm going to be placing it here towards the center of this. I didn't like the way this looked, so I've taken this piece here and I've got a slit cut into my back piece here. That way this will just kind of tuck behind there like that. And then I've got the little clownfish that I'm going to just put here just for a little bit of extra decoration. You don't have to put that, obviously you don't have to put any of these pieces, you can do whatever you want. I've got this piece here and I'm just going to tuck this here like he is swimming through that coral. Could put it up here like that as well. So I'm going to apply these pieces. I need to ink my edges, and again, I'm only applying my adhesive to the areas that are touching this paper. I'm leaving it open around the white areas so those photos will tuck behind. Okay, so here is this one with all of my pieces again open where they are over top of the white photo mats. Now you can leave your pages as is if you don't want to add anything else. I am going to add some micro beads to my layout like I did, I believe it was on the second tutorial set of pages, maybe pages 3 and 4. So I'm going to add some micro beads to start to tie some more things from the previous pages into this set of pages. I have some mixed media gel, so soft gel medium, here's what I'm using. And I have 2 different colors of these little tiny micro beads or seed beads. They're super tiny. I'm going to be using, I think, the gold ones on this just because the teal ones might not show up as well because I'm going to be putting it mostly on the teal paper. I might add some teal on here later, but I'm going to start with the gold. And so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add, and I'm going to be very careful where I add these because I don't want these to be on the photos. So I'm just adding a little bit in some of these areas. And I have my box to catch my extras here. And so you can see some in here, and I think I will add a little bit of teal ones as well, just a little bit. And I'm going to get rid of my gold beads first so that I don't have mixed beads once I go to dump these. Okay, so now I've just got a little bit of teal, and I'm going to add some more up here, and since I've got the teal out, I'm going to just add my teal here. And there's not really any specific place I'm adding these, I'm just adding some around my coral just to give it, like I said, a little bit of extra. And then I'm going to come down here and add a little bit here. Now I'm going to come back into this one and the top one and add a little bit of gold in here, just so that these ones will stand out. I think with the gold and the teal, it makes the teal stand out a little bit more, so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so we've got our little clusters of our beads, and I'm going to let this page dry and I'll bring in my second page. So for this page, I'm going to start adding I think I've got my gold ones out, so I will start with those. And I'm just going to add in some of these places here. And I think there'll probably be a little bit more on this one just because there's only one big embellishment cluster, so it's going to look like there's more than on the other page because the other page was broken up. And now I'm going to add the teal, and since we don't have teal paper, obviously the teal will show up a little bit better on this side. I think I'm going to add just a little bit, maybe in these upper areas, just to give it a little tiny bit of color up here. Not a lot, just a little bit, and I'm going to use the teal beads for this. And now I'm going to come back in one more time, very, very lightly, because I don't want a lot. And I'm just going to add a little bit of gold up in these top areas where I just added the teal. Perfect. So now I've got my little seed beads and clusters. And again, I just think it gives it a little bit of extra, just something unique and different. So I'm going to let both of these pages dry so that the beads don't fall off. Now this is it for pages 9 and 10 in my layout series. Obviously you can add additional things like your title here or anywhere else, or other embellishments if you want to embellish your page more. If you are following along in the tutorial series, I would love for you to leave me a comment and let me know what you think about the layouts, putting them together, what types of photos you plan on using, any additional embellishments that you're bringing in. Please feel free to leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. And then I hope I will see you in the next tutorial.